Let's go, baby. Let's talk some Texans here on YouTube. Appreciate you joining the show, however you're joining, whether it's live like the folks over in the chat or catching it on the replay, however you're watching it. I certainly appreciate you. Is it a will situation for the Texans when it comes to the number 2 and number 12 overall pick in the 2023 draft? If they go with a defensive player, what if there's no quarterback at 12? And just what are the vibes heading into the 2023 NFL Draft for the Houston Texans? We will talk about all that, so much more. Take your questions as well here on the YouTube channel. Appreciate you staying up late. My buddy Landry Locker says he is the number 1 Texans content creator, and he is. He does a very good job. I'm the number 1 late night content creator. Nobody's doing Texans live in the middle of the night like I am. So shout out to Landry for his hard work. Shout out to everybody for tuning in late at night to talk some Texans. So much fun stuff on the docket. Appreciate a subscribe. Appreciate a like down below as well. That helps the channel. And helping the channel helps me talk to you guys a little bit more. Let's get into it. Of course, your comments are always welcome in the chat, whichever way it is on the screen for me. Your comments are always welcome in the chat. Super chats go to the top of the line. We will get to you faster with a super chat. I certainly appreciate that. It is welcome. It is not necessary, but it is certainly welcome, and I appreciate you. We'll get into the will. Where there's a will, there's a way the Texans are successful in this draft. We will talk about it here in just a moment. Let me get to some of the comments. Trainer DC, appreciate you tuning in. David, appreciate you tuning in. Jose, I see you quite a bit. I'm losing my mind as well. Brandon, the fire emojis are welcome. Yarden, thank you. Hefe, see you again. Good to see you. Matt Marr, appreciate it. Night Owls, I like that. We're talking Texans, so we call them the Night Cows. The Night Cows, how about that? John, thank you for tuning in. Tyler, appreciate it as well. Sneakers most wanted. I haven't seen you in here before. Maybe you've been in here before. I don't recognize the name, but appreciate everybody joining us. Sean, appreciate you. Trainer, we'll get to all these different scenarios here in just a little bit. But let's start with the will scenario. Will work? Or will it work is better way to say it. It's Will Anderson and Will Levis. And I've thought a lot about this. And if you've watched the channel or you listen to the Wheelhouse on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5, you know I'm not a big fan of Will Levis, the Kentucky quarterback. The Texans seem to have a desire to end up with Will Levis. They seem to like Will Levis more than they like CJ Stroud as well. And so with that, you know I'm not a big Will Levis fan, but I'm also very much under the impression that it is worth investing in a quarterback in the first round of this draft. I still very much want them to have a quarterback on the roster when it comes to the 3rd pick being announced. I want the 2nd pick for the Houston Texans to be a quarterback. I want that to be the case. And if it's Will Levis, if it's Anthony Richardson, if it's CJ Stroud, I still very much want that to be the case. With the comments in the recent days about defense, it feels like the Texans are maybe not going to go QB that early. David with the super chat points it out. Wilson at number 2, speaking about Tyree Wilson, the defensive lineman from Texas Tech, he's connected a ton to the Houston Texans. Obviously, Will Anderson, the defensive lineman from Alabama, has connected a ton to the Houston Texans. And Will Levis has been the quarterback that has seemingly been the most connected to the Houston Texans. And with all that, Will is one of the scenarios where I'd be okay with the first round. It's not the happiest I could be, but I'd be okay with it. Will Anderson at 2, Will Levis at 12 is certainly a scenario that I could see the Texans ending up with. And it's a scenario that also feels like you didn't really get screwed, or screw yourself, I guess is maybe the better way to say it. But you didn't exactly hit a home run. Most people still feel like CJ Stroud at 2, if Bryce Young is off the board, is indeed the home run. And I tend to agree with you as well, compared to the other options, selecting CJ Stroud at number 2 to me feels like a better decision than most of the things the Texans have been rumored to do. I like him better as a prospect than Will Levis. I like him better as a quarterback than Will Levis. It's just a lot more to like about Stroud's game than what Levis brings to the table. And that seems to be the only home run option, or take a swing at a home run option that's on the board when it comes to selecting a non-Bryce Young quarterback at 2. I don't even know what I would phrase taking a defensive lineman. Taking a defensive lineman to me is just totally unacceptable. It's not a maximization of your assets. It's not the best way to use the number 2 overall pick. And it goes against really what Nick Caserio and D'Amico Ryans have been a part of their entire careers. Their entire careers, they've been a part of situations where the quarterback situation was very settled. Like, Nick Caserio is in this position in large part thanks to the fact that Tom Brady was the greatest quarterback of all time. Like, Tom Brady made up for some of the poor decisions that the front office in New England made. D'Amico Ryans got to San Francisco and watched Kyle Shanahan, the best offensive mind in the NFC, invest in a quarterback halfway through the first season when they didn't have one. Then he watched Kyle Shanahan go get another quarterback when they felt like the guy they had, who'd taken them to the Super Bowl, wasn't enough. And so to watch those two guys who are in charge of this team say, yeah, quarterback's not important enough to take it number 2, is a really tough spot to be in, and a really tough spot to watch the Texans go down. Because if they don't get a quarterback at 2, I don't know how they end up with a quarterback for sure. And you got to imagine QB1, defensive end 2, and then at least one more quarterback's coming off the board in the next few picks. The Colts at 4. A trade up to 3 by somebody for the Cardinals selection. The Raiders at 7. The Falcons at 8 are an outside shot at a quarterback. The Eagles would be a good trade-in spot for somebody that wants a QB if they start to fall. The Titans at 11 are a quarterback spot as well. So there's a lot of quarterback spots that could get filled with the third best guy. And that's what Levis is. He's the third best guy in most people's opinion. Now, some people have Anthony Richardson there. Some people have CJ Stroud there because they got Levis ahead of him. But for the most part, Will Levis is the third guy. So if Young's off the board and the next quarterback that comes off the board is Stroud, you've got a long wait until you're on the board, and Will Levis is the selection at 12. I've likened it on the show, on the Wheelhouse, to paying your rent or your mortgage with a scratch-off winnings. Like, yeah, you could scratch off. You could win enough to pay your mortgage or your rent for the month. That's not a plan. That's getting extremely lucky. And if the Texans get extremely lucky, I'll tip my cap to them and say, good job. You ended up with a quarterback and one of the best pass rushers in the draft. Largely considered the best or second best defensive lineman, and definitely considered the best pass rusher in most people's eyes. So I'll tip my cap to them. If they get Will Anderson, they get Will Levis. I just don't know exactly how they end up with both those guys, but that's one of the only defensive linemen at 2 scenarios that even has a little bit of a sunny outlook. Defensive linemen at 2, quarterbacks, and the top 4 quarterbacks are off the board by the time you pick at 12, disaster. Defensive lineman at 2, Hendon Hooker at 12, disaster. Defensive lineman at 2, no quarterback at 12, disaster. Like, there's so many little disastrous situations if you go defensive lineman at 2. If you don't go defensive lineman at 2 and it's a quarterback, you have a wider landing spot for a good first round. If you go defensive lineman, it's really Levis and Richardson that you're looking at number 12. Trading up in any scenario, trading future assets in any scenario for a quarterback to move from 12 forward in the draft would be an absolute disgusting situation. That would be sickening. Not to give up assets to move from 12 forward when you wouldn't give up assets to go from 2 to 1 to get the best guy. That'd be sickening. I have a hard time digesting that. Okay, so that's our first situation right there. The will scenario is one of the only defensive lineman forward scenarios that we can get through. That is one that you're going to feel really good about. Let's take some of these questions and comments. We'll get to the second part of this as well. Matt Marr, appreciate the super chat. Let's get into it. Trade down to Indy, take Anderson or Wilson. trade up from 12 and grab Stroud or Levis, assuming Carolina doesn't take Bryce. So if Carolina doesn't take Bryce Young, you pick Bryce Young. Boom. Issue solved. You don't have to worry about anything. Carolina takes Bryce Young, and you still want one of these defensive linemen. It's tough. It's tough to make that trade on draft night. And it's hard to do it before the draft because what if Carolina doesn't take Bryce Young? So my co-host BK looked this up on the Wheelhouse. There have been 2 draft day trades involving top 5 selections in about the past 10 years. It's really hard to get top 5 picks moving around on draft day. Now, I would trade with the Colts. I have no problem with it, and I'd let them, sort of bend the knee a little bit. And if you're the Texans and you feel like these quarterbacks stink, then what are you worried about with the Colts getting a quarterback? You shouldn't be worried about that. And then Matt Barr's scenario, where you've moved back a little bit and you have a couple of extra assets, the right guy falls, you want to jump up for him so you're not giving up too terribly much. It becomes a bit more acceptable. The tough part is I really don't want to give up a future first, and I have a feeling that a future first is going to be necessary to go from 12 into the top 10 in most spots to get the quarterback, A, that you want, and B, people are going to know you're coming up for a quarterback, so the price gets a little bit higher. So it's tough to kind of see that trade up from 12. I don't love the trade up from 12 scenario in pretty much any outcome. We'll have to talk about the Tyree Wilson situation as well here in just a moment, and why I'm not in love with Tyree Wilson being the guy, even though I am a Texas Tech guy. So let's get to some of your comments quickly. We'll get to the second topic, and then we'll continue to go. Of course, we'll have Q&A at the end, and like Matt Marr or David, who are very kind and very generous, if you want your question answered first, you want your comment read first, the Super Chats are the way to do it. This is a blood outcome. Yeah, this is a not feel good on draft day outcome for most of the scenarios that we have talked about. Brett's a big believer in Will Levis. Best QB in the class, I have a hard time seeing that. Could he be the second best? I certainly see a scenario where he turns into a worthwhile quarterback. I'd be very worried about the Texans selecting Will Levis. There's a lot of stuff that he does that would be tough to coach out of him if he does end up being the quarterback. Where there's a will, there's a terrifying prospect of drafting a QB who will be inconsistent and frustrating to watch. Jeremy, well said, though wordy, and doesn't quite totally fit the ease and smoothness of where there's a will, there's a way. But I agree with you. Levis is going to be super inconsistent early on. He makes a lot of mistakes. He throws the ball short a lot as well. He primarily threw to slot receivers and tight ends at his time in Kentucky. He primarily threw between 0 and 5 yards when he was completing his passes. Now, he did a really good job completing his passes in those ranges, but he passed a lot in the short passing game. It was a big criticism of Justin Herbert because there weren't the guys there to really rely on from that deep standpoint. So it's a big criticism of Herbert. Ultimately, that turned out to not be an issue when you got him the guys. And really, for Levis, that might be a positive early on because the wide receivers this team has right now lend itself to 0 to 5 yard plays. Quick slants, Robert Woods over the middle. John Mechie's going to be a slot guy. If they get Jackson Smith and Jigba somehow, they'd have to add him in the first round. If they don't take a quarterback at 2, they have to add another first rounder to do that. They end up with a good wide receiver that could do some fun stuff with that stuff. But Levis makes too many mistakes when he's got a clean pocket, much less when he has to figure things out on the fly. This is a solid offensive line, but it's not a great offensive line. Fat reacts. The Colts want Levis. Hopefully Texans make a deal. Yeah, you may have to get in front of the Colts to get Will Levis. If CJ Stroud's on the board, I got a hunch that Stroud is the guy that they would prefer over Will Levis. If Stroud's gone, then the Texans have taken him, you would think, and the Colts can't get him. If Stroud's gone because the Texans traded with, say, the Raiders, then Levis probably goes to the Colts at 3, and then you don't get a shot at Will Levis. Levis is Mills on roids. I don't know if he's Mills on roids, but he's yoked. I'll tell you that much. He is jacked, baby. McShay said there's a concern. Todd McShay, ESPN, said there's a concern. Will Levis works out too much like Tim Tebow does, and he has a hard time doing fine-tuning of his passing because he works out too much. That's something to pay attention to in the Will Levis profile. Juan Jimenez. If we get Will Anderson, we have to get another edge that can defend the run. Yeah, Anderson should be a solid player both ways. He's going to be, used as a pass rusher, but he should be a solid player both ways. I'm not super worried about that. And you have a really solid defensive tackle room to help with the run. Sheldon Rankins, remember, was an addition by this team. Obviously, Malik Collins has been fantastic. Fantastic's not a good word. Malik Collins has been a nice addition. And my big thing about Malik Collins, if he's your best defensive lineman or front seven player, it's a rough situation. If you have 4 or 5 guys that are better than him in the linebacking room and the defensive line room, you get no much better situation. So that's how I feel very much about the defensive tackles. They're there to stop the run. Anderson's going to be there to get after the passer. Okay. Jonathan, I'd rather have Wilson than Anderson. He has more upside. Okay. I mean, this was the Trevon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson thing from a year ago. We'll get into this at some point. Brandon, I wouldn't be mad with AR at 2 at this point. Hey, my order and preference is Bryce Young at 2, CJ Stroud at 2, Will Levis at 2, Anthony Richardson at 2. That's my preference when it comes to what I want them to do with the number 2 overall pick. That's my order. I'd rather Richardson at 2 and Christian Gonzalez at 12, a corner from Christopher. Christopher wants Christian. I would not go corner at 12 unless some really, really good players have already come off the board. I just feel like you can get better value elsewhere at the cornerback spot. And somebody would fall to 33. I don't know, they're not going to be as good as Christian Gonzalez, but somebody would fall to 33. You could find a guy. Brett, a defensive player at 2 would be a disaster. Yeah. I mean, it'd be a tough one to see. Tyree Wilson's one of the most Texas dudes ever. Plays football for a living and works on cars for a hobby. Great guy. Hey, man, I got nothing but good things to say about Tyree Wilson, the guy from an off-the-field standpoint. Has a master's degree from Texas Tech, which, as we know, is about as hard as Harvard to go to. Great kid from everything I've heard from my people at Texas Tech. And I just think that there's a football risk to taking him over Will Anderson. Gets hurt. Got hurt. Finished the season hurt. Couldn't have the didn't do well or didn't do anything in the pre-draft process because he was nursing an injury. So you got to be careful with guys who are hurt. It was Stingley's thing, and then he didn't make it through a whole season. So let me see if I can get through some of these real quick. Check this. Trade back to. What did I miss here, trainer? Trading back from 2 is my preference over a defensive lineman. Anderson, JSN, Hendon Hooker at 33. Yeah, I don't love that. I don't love that at all, Darwin. I don't love that. I still have a little hope in my tiny, minute little brain. I still have a little hope that this is indeed the case. I really want that to be the case. I hope that is the case still. Samuel, yeah, I think you're right about that. I have a hard time seeing him get past Indianapolis and the Raiders in sticking and picking scenarios. I have a hard time. Bryce is a Panther, been a Panther. Thank Nick for letting Lovey decide this team would be picking this draft. That was embarrassing. Yeah, Rod, that's one of the things that you got to put on Nick Caserio's resume in his time with the Texans is he screwed up getting the number 1 overall pick. Reaching for AR at Levis at 2 shouldn't be an option. I agree, but it's better than a defensive lineman at 2 and not getting one of the top 4 quarterbacks. I still very much believe that. Just draft all the players with the name Will. Will Anderson, Will Levis, Will McDonald. Trade for Garrett Wilson. Or is there another Garrett Wilson this year? Yeah, all the Wills. Willis, Williams. I'm in, Yarden. I'm in. Let's see here. Cody, your 2, 12, 33 picks. It's been a while. Let's put it on a star and come back to that one, Brandon. I'll get back to that when we go to Q&A. Any chance Bijan's there at 12, we take him there? Yes. Bryce Young and Bijan Robinson's my dream draft for the first 2 selections. I just would love that. I don't believe it's going to happen, but I'd love that. From what I understand, Bijan's very high on their board. I don't know how they would justify a quarterback and a running back at the first 2 picks. I don't know how they justify a defensive lineman and a running back. I don't know how this team justifies a running back. But he's the third best player on most people's board behind two defensive linemen. So I need the Era Good Vibes back. Era Good Vibes might be on life support. Might be on life support. Okay. Payback. Hey, welcome in. Cody, you think Carolina's bluffing and take Bryce Young? They most likely take CJ as the future of the franchise. I'll give you my Stroud theory one more time. Give my Stroud theory one more time on this. Carolina was comfortable going from 9-2 when they knew the Texans were getting the number 1 pick. So the Bears told us the Texans were going to go to 1, and then the Panthers were going to come up to 2. So Carolina was comfortable getting the number 2 overall pick when they knew the Texans were going to take Bryce Young. Okay? Then, when the Texans pull out, the Panthers can't trade to number 2 because the Texans aren't going to 9. The Panthers can't trade to number 3 because the Bears are still clearly looking to move the pick. And the Texans would still clearly take a quarterback. At that time, you definitely thought they were taking a quarterback. So you can't go to the 3rd pick because then you're down 2 quarterbacks and you're picking the 3rd quarterback. So at that point, your only choice is to get to the top spot. The only pick in the top 3 that gives you a chance to draft the quarterback that you want is 1 or 2. Well, you can't get 2, so that leaves you 1. So they had to go to number 1. I still believe there's a chance they take CJ Stroud. If he goes 1, then obviously the Texans go with Bryce Young, and a lot of problems in our lives are solved. Okay? A lot are solved. So plenty still to get to here. Let's talk a little bit about what if it happens if a quarterback is not there at 12. Curtis Podcast Network. I was on the show with these guys a few weeks ago. They do a fun job, man. It is a cool podcast. Appreciate them checking in. What about dude? AR is a project. If you take him, you got to start Mills or Keenum so you can develop. I hate that idea, but I like Richardson at 2 more than a defensive player. I like that more. All right. Appreciate the questions. We're going to get to some more here in just a minute. I want to get to another comment or another idea here, another thought. What if the quarterbacks are gone at 12? What if this team takes a defensive lineman at 2, and by the time they get to 12, the top 4 quarterbacks are off the board? What do? Well, that is oh crap territory. It becomes very hard to see exactly how you feel super comfortable with Hendon Hooker at 12. And it becomes very hard to see how you get a quarterback of note on this roster. If the Texans take a defensive lineman at 2 and there's no quarterback in the top 4 at 12, it is a very, very scary road to be going down. At that point, you're talking about a conversation and trading for Trey Lance, who I don't believe to be very good. He's played in 11 football games in 3 football seasons. Played 1 in college. He played 5 preseason games, and he's played in 5 games in the NFL. So 11 games in 3 football seasons for Trey Lance, 2 of them heavily affected by injury. He's not a very good player. I didn't like him coming into the league. He was not good in the preseason last year. He was not good in training camp, which is something that the San Francisco people will tell you about Trey Lance last year. I did not like Trey Lance. I don't like Trey Lance as an option for this team. So you're in a weird spot. Well, then do you trade for Mac Jones? I don't know if the Patriots want to trade Mac Jones. It feels like they got Bill O'Brien, and they'd have a conversation about O'Brien keeping Mac Jones and just going at it with Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. Mac was a nice player 2 years ago. He's not great, but he's not bad. So Mac was a nice player 2 years ago. So I have a hard time seeing New England parting with that. Well, then you get into Lamar Jackson territory. If they were getting Lamar Jackson, I feel like they might have already done that. So you're not going defender and then non-QB and then getting Lamar Jackson. I mean, if you are, I'll shut up about the criticism because that is dynamite if they end up with 2 first-rounders this year and then somehow end up with Lamar Jackson. But no QB at 12, you really have 2 options for a young investable quarterback. That's Hendon Hooker, and that's probably trading into the first round to get him. Maybe you take him at 33, but he's going to sit for a year. And I know he's saying he's going to be healthy. I understand that. Odell was going to be healthy, and then Odell missed the whole season. So it takes one little mistake, and he has a big setback, and he's useless in 2023. And then you've only got 3 years of him at quarterback, 2 years before you have to pay him if he's any good. If he's good, you don't have a problem with him. So if you're not going Hendon Hooker in the late first or top part of the second, then what do? Well, then you start looking at a really weird group of players that are the day 2, day 3 quarterbacks. And there's really not that many day 2 quarterbacks. I think we need to understand that. My favorite guy to talk draft with is John Harris. And John Harris, you know him from HoustonTexans.com, but Johnny was talking about the draft long before he was on HoustonTexans.com and the sideline reporter for the Houston Texans. Johnny's got a football site called footballtakeover.com. Footballtakeover.com is a free draft guide for you. Okay, I tweeted about it on my Twitter account over the weekend. I love John Harris's football work. I love talking ball with him. And I really like his quarterback list. You start looking at day 2, day 3 guys, you're talking about a guy like Jake Haener from Fresno State. I like Jake Haener, kind of a small guy, had some success at Fresno State for a couple of seasons. Johnny says he's kind of got good Baker Mayfield vibes to him. Well, if you take him on day 3, it's probably still a reach. Day 2 in the 3rd round, it's probably still a reach. It's tough to see how you can feel confident with him competing with Davis Mills and Case Keenum for time. Dorian Thompson, Robinson from UCLA. If he was any good, he'd have come out before his 17th senior year. Jaron Hall at BYU. We saw how BYU quarterbacks do. I know some people have compared Jaron Hall to maybe, hey, he could be kind of Mormon Brock Purdy. I don't want Mormon Brock Purdy. Give me one of the 4 top guys. Okay? So I very much encourage you. You know what? I'm going to try to find the link to Johnny's draft guide, and I'll put it in the chat. I really want you guys to check that out. I don't know how you could invest in the second round. I don't know how you can invest in the second or third round of the quarterback and feel confident about the situation. So if the quarterbacks are gone by 12, the Texans are in a heap of trouble. I guess you got to go Trey Lance or you got to go Mac Jones. I mean, I'd probably take a swing at Lamar and see if you can get it done, but I can't guarantee you could even get Lamar done. And then you lose out on draft picks for getting Lamar in the future. And then the conversation's like, well, why didn't you just get Bryce Young and trade those future picks? A lot of disastrous situations if they don't get a quarterback in the first 12 picks. A lot of disastrous situations. Okay, I'm putting the link to Johnny's tweet where you go to footballtakeover.com and get his free draft guide. John is the best. I love John and talking football with him. Okay? All right. So no QB at 12. A little bit of trouble. Could get a little scary. In there. Let's get to some comments and some questions. One more question after this, and then we will get to some of your questions and comments from earlier. Hooker's the minimum, the 3rd best quarterback this draft. Do you think that's the worst he's going to be? If that's the worst he's going to be, then I got the wrong read on the guy. Hendon Hooker played in a Mickey Mouse offense in college. He played in an offense that gave the quarterback less responsibility than Mike Leach used to give his quarterbacks at Texas Tech. It's a half-field read. And you go read Jalen Hyatt's scouting profile. There's so many guys that just talk about how Jalen Hyatt, the Tennessee wide receiver, just ran past people. Well, of course it's easy to throw the ball to a guy who's running straight line past everybody. I don't like Hendon Hooker's tape. I don't like where he played football. I don't like the system he played football in. I don't like the investment there. Keon White. Keon White's going to the draft. So he'll be in the green room for night one. I don't believe he's going to go night one, but he's in the draft room and in the green room, so he may be an early pick in night two. QB rankings from Matt Marr. Bryce, CJ Levis, Hooker, Richardson. Yeah, Richardson needs some development. Hooker's going to need some health. So, it's kind of a nice trade-off. Who do you believe in the development of Richardson? Do you believe that Hooker's going to get healthy enough? It's a tough trade-off. Darwin wants them to take C.J. Stroud and Bijan Robinson, Ohio State quarterback and Texas running back. You could do worse. Marco says, hello, Cody. Hello, Marco. No way Bijan's falling past 10. Philly will grab him. I believe Atlanta's taking Bijan at 8. Unless there's a quarterback that falls to them and they love it, I believe they're going to take Bijan at 8. My reasoning is pretty sound. The two best seasons of Derrick Henry's career were with Arthur Smith calling the plays as the offensive coordinator. They've got an okay offensive line in Atlanta, and they'd have a great tandem with Tyler Algier and Bijan. And then they'd have a freaky offense with Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan. And then they'd be QB ready for the following season if they are indeed poor. And if it works, then they're the number one destination for a veteran that wants to change teams. I think that's an underrated aspect that we haven't talked about here, is the veteran changing teams a la Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. It's just hard to see who that guy is for you to maybe have that as a backup plan to your quarterback future. So that's the tough part about watching veterans change teams, is you don't know who the next guy is and when they're actually going to change teams. And sometimes you get Matt Ryan, okay? And veteran changes teams and there's nothing left there. If BY isn't there, we are taking Will Anderson. They like Wilson too, but his foot and back are question marks. Yeah, so depending on who you talk to, the Texans like Tyree Wilson, the Texans like Will Anderson. Texans like Tyree Wilson, the Texans like Will Anderson. Here's my reasoning for why I believe they like Tyree Wilson. A year ago, Lance Zierlein, who I work with at ESPN 97.5, who does NFL.com's prospect write-ups, Lance Zierlein said the Texans liked Travon Walker. And he was one of the first guys to say the Texans really like Travon Walker, and he believed they would take Travon Walker over Aiden Hutchinson if the opportunity presented itself. Well, the same conversation would be Tyree Wilson over Will Anderson. The upside versus the proven product. That's the same thing over again. In fact, we had Daniel Jeremiah on the radio show today, and he said it's the same conversation. It is Tyree Wilson and Will Anderson. It's Travon Walker and Aiden Hutchinson. It's the what if he turns into a monster versus the proven production of maybe a slightly less impressive athlete. And Daniel Jeremiah's point is you're drafting football players. Okay, you're not drafting guys to be workout warriors. You're not drafting guys to do this or do that. You're drafting football players, so draft the good football players. Ryan, is there any situation on earth where Wilson or Anderson is acceptable number 2 overall pick? If they end up with a quarterback at 12, it becomes acceptable. If they end up with Lamar Jackson at the conclusion of the draft, it becomes acceptable. There's a small runway to land that plane. And in the moment, okay, so again, I want this to be clear. In the moment, number 2, using it on a defender is unacceptable. It could become acceptable if you get a quarterback at 12, but in the moment, using the selection on a defender is unacceptable. That's how I feel. Thank you, Ryan, for the question. Okay, Texan. Tyree Wilson's reported freaky athleticism, but no confirmed measurements from combine and pro day to injury. Or are we just taking that at face value with no confirmation? Stuff to like. There's stuff to like on tape. And look, for the combine and the measurements and the pro days and the workouts and yada yadas, these guys care about the tape. And over there at NRG Stadium, they care about the tape probably more than anything, as most teams do. They watch the tape and they say, hey, it's, we like Tyree a little bit more. I don't understand it. I don't get it. But it's where the Texans very well could be. Very well could be. All right, couple more here. I got one more point to get to you. Brandon, yeah, great live with Landry and John Harris. Yeah, that was a fantastic live that Landry did with John Harris. Go check it out on his YouTube page. Johnny is one of my favorites when it comes to talking. He is my favorite when it comes to talking draft, talking football. And then Landry, obviously one of my best friends, does a great job as well. I put up the link to Johnny's free draft guide, 200 something pages. Guy does great work. So I put that up there so you guys can check that out. Okay. One more thing. And then we'll get to the comments. Oop, that's not what I want. Nope, that's not what I want. All right. What's everybody's vibe? What's the vibe heading into the first round of the draft on Thursday night? Are you guys going to the draft party? If you don't know about the draft party, if you're in Houston, you got to go to the draft party. My friends at the Texans sent me a very cool gift bag to let me know and invite you guys to Miller Outdoor Theater. So Thursday, Miller Outdoor Theater, you gotta register online ahead of time. Okay, register online ahead of time, but it is free. So you get out there. They're gonna have food trucks. They're gonna have all sorts of fun stuff. You watch the draft live. So Miller Outdoor Theater this Thursday. The Texans want to see you out there. They sent me a little gift bag to let you guys know about it. I'll show you some of the cool stuff they sent. If I can ever get into this thing. All right. This is great radio. Unboxing, great radio. Great YouTube. Unboxing. So this is this year's draft hat. I really like this. I really like this draft hat. It's kind of similar to last year. It's not super similar to last year's hat, but I like that they went with the lighter top and then the deep steel blue. So this is this year's draft hat. I'm gonna give away a draft hat. Not this one. This one's mine. I'm gonna give away a draft hat on the YouTube channel. Okay. I haven't figured out how I'm gonna do it yet, but I'm gonna give away a draft hat, maybe two, on the YouTube channel. So this is this year's draft hat. Hey, we can't wait to see you at Miller Outdoor Theater on April 27th. So this Thursday, Miller Outdoor Theater, HoustonTexans.com has got all the info there for you. You can see all the details and kind of stuff like that. And the draft party presented by Modelo. And these are some cool koozies that kind of have like the snap bracelet vibe to them. Okay, but they go around your can. But Modelo is presenting the 2023 draft party from the Houston Texans. And they sent me some beer. Okay, Modelo Oro. The new slim cans, the new small cans. So that's the draft party on Thursday. Miller Outdoor Theater. And you can check it out. HoustonTexans.com's got all the info. Again, to go, I believe you got to register. It's free. It's free to register. But go out there and hang out with all the Texans fans. Okay? Go out there and hang out with all the Texans fans. And so that's the Texans party. We'll be live in Kansas City with the show. 1800 Tequila has put us out there in Kansas City to broadcast live from Kansas City. We'll be there live at the draft night on Thursday and Friday. When the Texans pick the guy at 2, we'll talk to him in the press conference after. When the Texans pick the guy at 12, if he's there, we'll talk to him in the press conference after he gets picked. So the Wheelhouse is going to be live. The Wheelhouse is going to be on location talking to the draft picks. And it's going to be a blast. If the guy's there night 2, we're going to talk to him night 2 as well. So 1800 Tequila is sending us to Kansas City. Really appreciate 1800 Tequila taking care of us. And if you don't make it out to Miller Outdoor, Valencia's Tex-Mex Garage here in Houston. ESPN 97.5 is going to have the draft show live and in person, giving away a 75-inch TV. Okay, we're going to have a raffle, giving away a 75-inch TV at Valencia's Tex-Mex Garage. Valencia's Tex-Mex Garage with the live draft show. So if you can't make it out to Miller Outdoor, we got Valencia's Tex-Mex Garage. Going to have some great drink specials, some fantastic food. Jeremy Branham, John Granato, some of my other colleagues from ESPN 97.5 are going to be live at Valencia's. Of course, we'll be in Kansas City. Hold on, where was this? Is funny. Is Modelo trying to tell you something, Cody? They don't call them slim cans. They're just smaller than the other cans, okay? They don't call them slim cans. Do I need to slim down a little bit? Yeah, I need to slim down a little bit. Okay? Need to slim down a little bit. We're going to work on that after Kansas City, after I eat all that Kansas City barbecue. Okay. Q&A time. Whatever you guys want to fire away. Whatever you guys want to fire away. And we will come up with plenty of stuff. I will go to Brandon's question. I said I would start and come back to it. Cody, your 2, 12, 33 picks. So last week I had the Texans taking in my mock draft, I'm taking Bryce Young because I believe he's going to be there too. Lucas Van Ness at 12, and at 33, I would have gone with a wide receiver or a tight end. I would have probably hoped Dalton Kincaid was there. In the mock, he wasn't. But Mayer from Notre Dame, although I don't believe he was available in the mock either, but tight end or wide receiver, I very much feel like QB, wide receiver, and defensive end is sort of the sweet spot there for those first three selections. Doing it now, I don't see how they go defensive lineman and then get the quarterback. So I'm going to mock them with a quarterback at 2, and I'd go Levis at 2. And then I would go Lucas Van Ness at 12, and at 33, I'll go Jalen Hyatt. That's kind of my thought right there. That's kind of my thought right there for right now. Yeah, we got some OK Texan. I'm in OKC too. Yeah, we got some folks from all over the country. Okay, I know I think a lot about Houston, but we got some folks all over the country tune in. I appreciate everybody tuning in. We're well past midnight talking some Texans. It's draft season. Appreciate you staying up late. If you're watching it the next day, appreciate you as well. That's why I like Cody. He's a real Texans fan. Man, I'm not ever going to quit this team. I love watching this team. I love covering this team. I think I got the best job in the world, getting to talk about this team for a living on the radio, and then getting to talk about it on YouTube with you guys. So I'm a fan too. So sometimes it's hard to take the fan hat off and put the analyst hat on. Sometimes I'll wear both hats at the same time, like the day when I lost my mind and thought my head was going to blow up because they might take a friggin' offensive lineman. But it's your squad, man. People love to complain. I've been known to complain a little bit. Hey, it's like the family member that you can't unfamily. That's kind of how I feel about my squad sometimes. Texas still has better barbecue. We're going to put it to the test. I'll tell you what, I'm going to try as much as I can to get a good understanding of what that KC barbecue is all about. Will Monroe. Well, Elvis's lower body mechanics, the main concern you have with him as a prospect. My main concern is the decision-making. Because sometimes even when the pocket's clean, he hadn't been able to make it happen. So the decision-making is the thing for me with Will Levis. You're looking good, bro. Here's hoping we trade back and ammo up for next year. Hey, next year's fun to think about having a lot of ammunition next year, but if somebody has 1 and 2 and they don't want to, they need the quarterback, they're not trading it for you. They're not trading you the QB. If the Commies and the Falcons have 1 and 2 next year, they're not trading. They're not getting rid of the opportunity to take Caleb Williams or Drake May for a couple of draft picks. That's the tough part about the ammunition conversation. Now, there's some other quarterbacks that should be nice next year. J.J. McCarthy at Michigan. There's a few other guys that should be nice players, but you want one of the top guys, just like you want one of the top guys this year. Jeremy, Christian Harris, I see him being used in D'Amico's defense. Kind of forgot about him. The expectation I have for Christian Harris is so high, and it goes along with my expectation that I have for D'Amico Ryans, the coach, is take Christian Harris and turn him into a big-time player. I don't know if he's going to be a Pro Bowler or an all-pro guy, but turn him into a really, really good player that you can rely on. That's what your hope is for a guy that's a third-round pick. If he turns into a super reliable starter, that's a great career for a guy that's a third-round pick. Tank Dell in the third. So Jeremy Branham, who hosts the midday show on ESPN 97.5, Killer Bees, he mentioned this about Dell the other day. The Texans have met with him basically at every turn. So they're clearly trying to figure out if he's a fit and if he makes sense for them. Curtis Podcast Network, Tillman's better than Hyatt. I agree. I just don't know if they'd take Tillman at 33. I do think they might take Hyatt at 33. Different type of guys, too. Hyatt's the burner, Will Fuller-esque. Tillman's a little bit more reliable, not as freaky athletic as Hyatt is. Maybe I'd argue more polished. So I don't disagree with you. Hey, let's hey, Jake's my co-host on the show. I don't like the slander. So hey, guys, okay, he talks about the Jets, sure, but Jake does a good job here on the show with us. I mean, he's obviously very good on YouTube talking Jets, but let's keep the slander to a 0 here in the chat there for that. What round can we get Keon White in? Second round? Feels like he's a second rounder. Venom, what are your thoughts on Joey Porter Jr.? Early in the draft process, I thought about him at 12. Feels like he's going in like the late teens to the 20s. Nice player. I don't know that the Texans will really have a chance to get him in any way because 12's too early and he won't be there at 33. But I would be interested in Joey Porter Jr. I mean, he's there at 33. Run the card up. I mean, that'd be freaking awesome. I just don't see that at all. We need daily late nights. I do what I can, man. I know that I appreciate all y'all tuning in, so it's fun. Makes it a lot easier to get it going when we do it. I will try. We're going to try to go late night after the draft. It might be late night. We're going to try to go late night after the draft and talk late night from Kansas City. I might have to do it from the bathroom of the hotel, but we'll have some fun late night. Washington, Gibbs, Deuce Vaughn. Give us some juice. I would assume that's Darnell Washington, the tight end from Georgia. Jahmyr Gibbs, the running back from Alabama, and then Deuce Vaughn, the running back from Kansas State. Darnell Washington's interesting. I don't know if he's totally exactly what the Texans are looking for at tight end. But if he needs to develop just a little bit, like he can help you right away in some aspects. Some aspects of his game's got to develop a little bit. But you got Schultz to play most this year at tight end, and then Quintiriano in his second year. So Washington could come along slow. Tight end's hard to make the jump, especially from a production standpoint. Typically, rookies don't produce a lot of the tight end spot. If we drafted Bijan Robinson, we consider trading Dameon Pierce. No. That'd be a great little 1-2 for him. Great little 1-2. Someone's a K-State fan. Let me go back to this. I don't know if you can get Washington and Gibbs because they go in the same range in most people's opinions. So I don't know if you can get both. So I'd lean Washington more than Gibbs and then get Deuce Vaughn late. Someone's a K-State fan. The Felix guy's an interesting day 2 prospect, top of the day 2 prospect, or if he slipped, certainly middle part of the second round. Really interesting player. Bijan would be a nice consolation at some point if we don't draft Stroud at 2. They're going to need to do something to make me feel better at 12 after they do something crazy at 2. So I don't know exactly what that is. Bijan would be nice. You can run the heck out of the ball and be successful in the NFL. So that's one way to look at it. Those of us Texans fans that will be in KC, let's all agree to show other Texas fans love when we see them. Got a feeling we'll need each other's support. Yeah, could be a big old group cry session on Thursday night. But no, I'm excited for this draft. Hopefully, the smokescreen conversation is true and they get something fun at 2 and they do something fun at 12 and, we're having a blast. But it's going to be interesting to see who the quarterback is and going into that next era because that really changes your opinion on the team. They have the 16th best quarterback situation in the AFC right now. And I really have a hard time believing they're going to finish with the 16th best quarterback situation when it comes to the draft. This organization and fan base has got to kick this losing mentality. As a franchise QB sitting there too. Pair him with your favorite wide receiver. Why are we not on board for this? I am. Blue Boy Sign? Blue Boy Shine? I don't know. Blue Boy, I'm in on this. I'd do that. Feel like Brad Pitt and Glorious Bastards. You do that deal, I'll do that deal. It's a damn good deal. Draft QB at 2, draft his favorite wide receiver at 12. I do that deal. Did you do that deal? Do that deal. I just feel the Texans grab Will Anderson, JSN, and then Jake Hayner. If we don't like any QBs at the top, I can see Nick doing this. Wouldn't feel great because I'd have to sit a whole day without a QB. Wouldn't feel great about that. I'd have a hard time seeing how that long-term is successful. I don't want Christian to be Fred Warner, but I'll take something close. If he's Fred Warner. Fred Warner? That's the 49ers guy, right? Am I losing my mind here? That's the guy D'Amico and then drafted in the mid-rounds in San Francisco. Yeah, Fred Warner. I don't know. He's not going to be Fred Warner, but if he's good, then, I mean, he didn't have to be great. Just be really good. Put some good players around him. It's like a third-round quarterback. A third-round quarterback would not be great. Let's go Will at 2, and then Will at 12. Oh, yeah, I got you. But someone jump us and take him. Oh, shoot. Hello. I don't see how Levis makes it to 12 unless he's not nearly as good as we all thought. Much love, Cody. How'd you feel about a trade back 2? Grab AR-15 and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Don't feel great, but feel better than stick and pick defensive lineman at 2. That's how I feel about it. We'll all be drunk if we go Levis by that point. Yeah, probably. You're gonna be some drinking. That's why you get you some skinny Modelo's, or you go to the Valencia's party and have you some margaritas there with some 1800 tequila in them. Holding out for AR. I think he's a slam dunk pick if we can get him outside of 2. Woo! There's some you gotta betting on some development there. You're betting on this coaching staff, which, of course, they're going to believe they can make it happen from a coaching standpoint. They don't think they have crappy coaches. They think they got great coaches. I don't think they have crappy coaches. I just feel like AR-15 is a really big project. It didn't look great. It didn't look great in Florida. It really didn't. Jeremy, if we're giving up on Nico Collins, if he's still viable, I don't really think we're as needy as people think we are at wide receiver. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it yet from Nico, and most guys with the investment that they made in him have made the jump by now. I haven't seen it. That might be the quarterback play. Nico might not have played with a good enough quarterback for us to see it. That's why you got to get a quarterback. What have you heard about Stromberg, the center from Arkansas, being real out scouting reports? He could be a day 3 sleeper. So, I think five centers in this draft are considered worthwhile and draftable centers. Where exactly did I see the 5 guys? Maybe it's 4 or 5. So there's a thought that Avila, the guy from TCU, could bump down and play center. So that's a guy to pay attention to. Steve Avila from TCU. We've talked about John Michael Schmitz from Minnesota. Whippler from Ohio State, which, I mean, if you ended up with C.J. Stroud and you got him, that'd be pretty good. Joe Tippmann from Wisconsin is another guy. And then Stromberg is another guy. I'm seeing Stromberg go in the 3rd round in a lot of mock drafts. He gets comped to Creed Humphrey, the stud center for the Chiefs. So I would like Stromberg I'd like him in the 3rd round, but certainly if he's there in the 4th round, worthwhile investment. Draft wills at will, because there's a will, there's a way. Yeah, we've had some fun with the will, there's a way, so on and so forth. If they draft Will Levis, I'm calling him Billy the Kid. Oh, this is always a fun deal. Let's see if Will Levis's real name is actually Will, or if that's like a middle name. Yep, Will Levis is his real name. Like, Mac Jones, it's not his real name. His given first name is McCorkle. Yeah, McCorkle. Favorite non-first round wide receiver. And I feel bad because 4 years running, I've cursed a Big 12 wide receiver. Let me pull up the list here and make sure I got it right. But 4 years running, I've cursed a non-first round wide receiver who played the Big 12. So 2018, I think it was. Hold on, let me find him. 2019. So 2019, I really like Hakeem Butler. He plays in the XFL now. 2020, I really like Devin Duvernay. He has not turned into a fantastic wide receiver just yet. 2021, I really, really liked. Oh, wait, who else was in 2020? Let me see if it's in there. 2021, who was the guy I really liked in 2021? Uh, 2021, maybe there wasn't a guy that I cursed in 2021. I've cursed a Big 12 wide receiver every year, and I feel terrible about it. But it just so happens I end up cursing a Big 12 wide receiver every year. Oh, it was Tylan Wallace in 2021. Oh, yeah, I thought he was going to be really good. And then 2022, it was Tyquan Thornton. I thought he went to a great spot and not very good. So Mims is this guy this year. So let's see. Oh, let's see if I can do the split screen thing. I'll show you a fun Mims stat that I found I saw on social media. Let's see if I can find this Mims stat. Scott Barrett, who does daily fantasy for fantasy points, and I believe lives in Houston. Let's see, Scott Barrett. Let's see, can I do the screen share on this one? Nope, not a slide. Share screen. We want a tab. All right. So if you can see this, highest NCAA career yards per touch, 100 targets, Power 5 only. Look where Mims is. Waddle, awesome. Lamb, awesome. Chase, awesome. Jameson Williams, I believe in him, even though he's got a gambling problem. Hollywood Brown, very solid. Not awesome, but very solid. Devontae Smith, awesome. So Mims should be really good. Mims should be really good. I like Mims a lot. I like Mims a whole lot. All right, a couple more. Yeah, Landry loves him some Mims too, and he hates Oklahoma. He brings up a good point, though. Mims could have had an even better year if the quarterback had stuck around. Imagine Caleb Williams with Marvin Mims. Anybody remember Mims, the artist? This is why I'm hot. This is why I'm hot. This is why I'm hot. So hopefully they get Mims. If they don't get a wide receiver in the first 3 picks, that's who I want them to pick with I want them to trade up in the second to get him. I believe in Marvin Mims. What are your thoughts on the theory? The new inspirational quote on the Texans page today matches the same font as Will Levis's tattoo. So I've heard this theory, and Landry Locker, my good buddy, is the one that talked about it. It's similar. I don't know if it's the exact same. It's also the same style of font as those new hats that you've seen the Texans, the hats and the shirts, the kind of almost scripted H that they have. What am I doing here? So like they did all the new for the H stuff and H-Town, and let me see if I can pull up the gear and take a look at it. But it's in the same. It is in the same font as that H. So, oh, come on. Make it to the team shop here. Try and make it harder to get make it harder to find this, please. Just show me the shirts. Hats, shorts, t-shirts. Where's that new H they use? It's on some of these t-shirts. Oh, come on. Seen all this old. I wonder if they're going to update the logo at all when they change the uniforms. All right. I know where I can find this H. All right, here we go. Share screen. And share. Okay, you see the H on Roy Lopez's back? That's the same font that they used for that weird motivational quote. So it's not necessarily Levis-centric. Although it'd be one hell of a little tell if they did do this Levis-centric. Who's our QB coach? Guy from East Texas. The QB coach is a guy named Gerard Johnson, and I've actually hosted a radio show with Gerard Johnson. Back in the day, he used to come on the show when I was on Sports Radio 610 and hang out. Played his ball, high school ball here at Humble. Went to Texas A&M and was really successful at Texas A&M. Had a shoulder injury, kind of ruined his pro potential. And Gerard's a great guy. He's worked his butt off to make it up through the coaching ranks, and I know he's pumped to be the Texans QB coach. All right, few more. DeAndre and Andre played with garbage QBs, and they were great. Mims was still really good. I think this is a Mims comment. Mims was still really good this year. Just wasn't as good as he could have been. Named wide receiver from Florida. Tape shows him trying to fit it into windows that were tighter than a pickle jar lid. Wide receivers couldn't get open. He understood the wide receiver limitations second half of the season. Yeah, he didn't play with a lot of really good players. I mean, you're not wrong about that. So I don't see it as easy with Richardson. Like the potential outcomes of him being awesome are less likely than the outcomes for the other guys. I stopped watching football for about 2 seasons after they traded Hopkins. I thought we were turning into the Detroit Lions. To my surprise, the Lions are actually good. Hey, I would not mind being the Lions here in, say, a year or so, and then after that being better than the Lions. That'd be great. I'm falling for Mingo as my favorite non-first wide receiver. So, excellent downfield blocker, inconsistent in showing up is the way, inconsistent in showing up. Doesn't always show up is the best way I could say that. He loves Mims. We're a pro Mims channel here. The lineman from Oklahoma. Name's escaping me, maybe late first, early second type guy. Anton Harrison is the guy's name. Anton Harrison, dog. Mims and Tank Dell. Let's see here. When it comes to the draft and free agency, which is a better place to get your franchise quarterback, which is a better place to get your defensive end? If you have to pick between the two, I'd rather draft my quarterback and I'll pay a defensive end. I'd prefer to draft them both. But if you're giving me the option, I'll draft my QB and pay the defensive end. Me too, Joe. If we trade for these guys, me too. Mims would be awesome in the 5th or the 6th. What a steal. I'll be shocked if he's available in the 4th round. I'd be shocked. I'm afraid San Fran's going to get him with one of those comp picks they have in the back of the 3rd round. Back to say we should take for was no. We're not looking towards next year. No more trading. No more thinking about next year. I have not seen Joel Klatt's mock. I try to keep my mock consumption in a box a little bit. So, like Klatt, I like his football stuff. Why is he mocking? Sims, I like his football stuff. Why is he mocking? Here in the Stroud Levis S2 cog test, or put out the BS to make Stroud fall and Levis to rise. Anyone falling for that? The Texans don't seem to care about it, so I'm not super worried about the C2 test. I don't care about it that much, to be honest with you. That cognition test crap. Oh, you can press a button on a gaming keyboard so you know where to throw the ball. Out of here. Get out of here. All right. What we got here? Like Dorian Williams is a third-round D'Amico pick. I have to do some reading up on him. Here's what I'll say about defensive linemen and really any defender. They're going to get a little D'Amico shine up. So you're going to project a lot more with this guy and have a higher thought that it's going to turn into a good pick when D'Amico takes the guy. Because you believe in D'Amico. I believe in D'Amico. Believe a little bit less if they don't have a quarterback. But I believe in D'Amico. Get Meltzer on the stream. We'll do a stream with old Mikey Meltz one day. Do a stream with Mikey Meltz one day. Engineer, what are you going to do with these QBs? They're going to start winning football games eventually. Like, that's the hope when you draft a quarterback. Okay? Can you win 6 or 7 games in the first year? You hope. I mean, they won a handful of games the past couple of years with bad teams and bad coaching. They got a better team and better coaches. Win a couple of games. Yeah, they're that much better. But, it's your opportunity cost. You take the defensive lineman at 2, you miss on the QB. You take the QB, you're not getting one of the top 2 defensive linemen. So, you can't get the generational talent next year. You're not going to be the worst team in football. You're not going to be the second worst team in football. So you're not getting those guys. And if there are teams that have QB needs at 1 and 2, they're not trading. Yes. So Levis, Van Ness, and Jalen Hyatt was the 2, 12, 33 for right now. I don't love that, but I figure out something better than Jalen Hyatt. Certainly I can do something better than Jalen Hyatt. Life's not fair. I feel bad for Mills in that aspect of it. Life's not fair. He was given an opportunity. It did not work. And now they have an opportunity to move on from him. So life's not fair. Hyatt sucks, gets Cedric Tillman said later. I could do better than Hyatt at 33. I just feel like it's got to be QB, defensive end, and wide receiver with those first 3 selections. I can do better, and I will do better, hopefully, when I get that mock draft put out tomorrow. Will McDonald. Old McDonald had a sack. E-I-E-I-O is what I will say if he's a Texan and he gets a sack. So, all right. Over an hour. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you for the contributions from the Super Chats. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for telling people about this. I appreciate the likes down below. I appreciate the subscriptions. If you're not a subscriber down below, share this with people. Tell them about it. That's how we get the show out there. That's how we get more people in here. That's how we do some more fun stuff here as well. Hoping to do a lot more this week. Obviously, the Texans situation is a very fluid one. It's going to be hopefully a very fun one come Thursday night. We will talk about it late Thursday night. Hopefully, we'll talk to you guys before then. If you have a good idea for giving away a draft hat, put it in the comments. I don't know exactly how to do this. We'll do a raffle of some sort, a giveaway of some sort. We'll give away some draft hats. So, maybe you guys don't want the draft hats after the draft. Maybe you think it's not a very good draft hat, So, I don't know. I think it's a good draft hat. I really like this year's hat. I'm very happy with it, and I'll give away a couple of draft hats here in the coming days. All right. Once again, thank you so much. The Wheelhouse, ESPN 97.5, 92.5, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday, including this week on Thursday and Friday, live from Kansas City. Thanks to our friends at 1800 Tequila. So we will have live coverage from Kansas City. We will talk to the guys that the Texans draft in the press conference after the show. Stickers. The stickers are on hold because I don't know which ones we want to do just yet. And we may have player-specific stickers. And and the era of good vibes might die. So we'll see about those. We'll still do something fun from that standpoint here on the show. So Wheelhouse, broadcasting live Thursday and Friday. The YouTube channel right here, likes, subscribes down below. Hit the little bell so you know when we're going live. It'll be late at night. Most of the time, we'll get some earlier stuff going from time to time as well. Thank you again, everybody. I very much appreciate you tuning in, however you're tuning in. If you're tuning in live, like the people, it was close to 100 people in here, or if you're watching and you've watched all the way to the end here, thank you as well for that. Thank you to all the regulars. Thank you to all the new people in the chat. And as we finish each and every show here, eat good, sleep good, and be good. We'll talk to you soon.